Rick's List, CNN weekday afternoons, 3 Eastern.
Members of Withers' family are surprised by this report that their patriarch was a spy for the FBI. Daughter Rosalind Withers is quoted as saying, "This is the first time I've heard of this in my life. My father's not here to defend himself. That is very, very strong accusation. Be that what it may, it's part of history." Rosalind, by the way, is now the trustee of her father's photo collection. Let me bring you back in now. It's hard for people at home not to see this and be upset, and they feel like maybe this man betrayed the confidence of one of the most iconic figures in our history. How do you disagree with that?
Well, I don't disagree with it, but you have to understand that our movement was designed to be totally transparent. And we knew there were people. I can remember being in a meeting in Selma when a Klan photographer came in and set up his thing, and everybody knew who he was. And Dr. King said, "No, don't put him out. We want them to get the story right."
Really? You knew
Really.
he knew he was being photographed by a photographer for the KKK?
Klan, sure.
My goodness.
And we did not. We knew that everything we did was recorded. Our phones were tapped. I fixed a fence outside my house just 2 months ago, and the guy from my church who was putting in the telephone wire said, "You got 5 wires running into your house."
Really?
I said, I don't know. I said, "We don't have but 4 phones. We have 2 phones, fax, and an internet. I don't know where the 5th one."
But what?
The 5th one was going to 6 houses down the street, which means that since I moved in there about 1966, there's been a bug in my house. But we could not
Have you ever told anybody that before?
I just found it out.
That's amazing.
But I knew that every phone call I made, I knew that every hotel I stayed in, I knew that everything I said was being recorded.
You know, I experienced that when I went to Cuba as a reporter to interview Fidel Castro. But that's a communist totalitarian country.
but
and Americans are sitting here saying, but you're now saying, and this is you know, our problem with what you're saying right now. This man had the confidence of you and Martin Luther King and all these leaders. Well, it's not what he said, it's what he could have done.
No, well, okay, but here's the thing. I remember another instance where a guy came to work for us, and I said, "You know, this guy probably is being sent here by the CIA. So there's, I mean, just a casual check of his background, and I assume that." Dr. King said, "Well, if he can help us get organized, so what?"
There was that much going on that you just suspected, and you knew that there were people who were doing this?
And we knew it. We got calls for people telling us.
Well, let's talk.
Believe it or not, we actually thought of the FBI as our friends.
Really?
We thought of Hoover as an enemy.
J. Edgar Hoover.
We felt that Hoover had a problem that that was irrational, we couldn't deal with. But the average FBI agent was more reliable than the average Georgia patrolman or the GBI or the Mississippi State Patrol.
Let's get more point. Let me make this a more,
let me just say one thing about Withers, and it's
well, that's what I want to ask you.
It's been my position.
Yeah,
it's been my position that to pass on information, if it's true, is all right. And we would say, okay, sell your services, but don't sell your soul. Don't lie on us. If you want to tell people the truth. Now, we also had instructions.
But did you know that Withers was? When did you find out?
Just when the story
What
broke.
was your reaction?
That he made a little extra money on the side.
And it didn't bother you?
It didn't bother me.
How do you not feel betrayed when someone does something like that?
Because
it's a lie.
No, he was the one who was our contact with Jet and Ebony. He was our voice to the world.
But if he was that much of a trusted friend, why wouldn't you expect of him to say to you, by the way, guys, with a wink and a nod, "Andy, you know what? I'm going to keep doing this, but I'm working for the FBI." Why wouldn't you expect him to be straight with you and Dr. King?
It wasn't that important to us.
How could it not be important to you, Andrew?
Why? I don't know why it needed to be. We knew we were trying to change America. We knew our instructions from our lawyers were for us to inform the FBI and the Justice Department of everything we did before we did it. We had no secrets. We wanted no secrets.
Well, how did you trust that he wouldn't take information and share it in such a way that would have hurt your cause? Because you knew he was putting in the hands of J. Edgar Hoover, who could have exaggerated or extrapolated it in such a way to hurt you.
Which he did. And those are the people I'm angry with. I'm angry with the scholars that look at the J. Edgar Hoover files and think of them as fact. I don't worry about the informants on the street. So the people who were doing their jobs, they were doing a job for us. The stories that he got around the world were important enough for us to give him access. Now, I can't imagine him making up anything. I mean, he's a guy that I...
Well, I'll tell you specifically, just one quick thing. You know, that sanitation strike that I just showed a little while ago, he turned in notes to the FBI on who attended those meetings, why they were there, what they were doing. What if there was somebody who wanted to protect the fact? They wanted to go to the meeting, but they didn't want to be discovered.
No, well, because we didn't like people like that.
I see.
We wanted people to be proud of what they were doing. We were standing up for the Constitution. We were trying to make America, help America live out the true meaning of its creeds. See, and I mean, when I was going, after Dr. King died, and I went down to the islands, there was a guy with us that we said, what's he doing with us? And I said, he's probably an agent. So, and we said, let's make sure he gets invited everywhere we go so he can write an accurate report.